The universe has something important to tell you today. Maybe you haven't realized it yet, but there is a silent transformation underway, weaving new beginnings where before you saw only disappointments. Take a deep breath and make space within yourself. There are answers waiting to be heard, and the universe wants you to be ready to receive them. This is a message made to touch your moment. Welcome each word with an open heart. At some point, you believed with all your might that what you wanted was inevitable. It was as if the universe was conspiring to make it happen. You dreamed big, invested your innermost thoughts, your purest hope, repeating to yourself, "It will happen, it is certain." It looked so perfect it was almost scary. You saw yourself inside the dream, already living the conquest, already feeling the fulfillment, but suddenly reality began to show another side. And instead of progress, you found yourself carrying an invisible weight, anxiety. The dream that was supposed to bring happiness began to generate tension. Each day that passed without an answer seemed to pull his expectations down even further. And the more you insisted on believing, the more life showed signs of resistance. It was as if there was an invisible barrier that could not be crossed, no matter how hard you tried. At many moments, the frustration was so great that the feeling was one of battle, you against time, against the situation, against the will of others, against what seemed to be destiny itself. There was this voice inside telling you that if you just tried a little harder, if you believed a little harder, maybe everything would fall into place. And yet, it seemed the universe responded with silence. For some, the dream took the form of a person, someone who seemed to be exactly what was missing for life to make sense. For others, it was a project, a career, an opportunity that had been awaited for so long that it had become part of their own identity. No matter the form, the feeling was the same. It was his vision of happiness that seemed to have been denied. And when it finally dawned on you that it wouldn't happen as you had imagined, it was a heavy blow. It wasn't just sadness, it was disbelief, an almost physical feeling of emptiness. How come it didn't happen? But I wished with all my being. It was supposed to be my destiny. These thoughts echoed in his mind, creating a loop of unanswered questions. Hope turned into weariness. Faith turned into doubt, and what was once pure expectation became chronic concern. You found yourself thinking, reanalyzing every detail, trying to understand where the path had deviated. And even though you were tired, part of you still held onto a thread of hope, believing that maybe at some point things would make sense again. The universe sees this pain and more. It understands every sigh of tiredness, every silent tear, every sleepless night, because all of this is part of something bigger that you still cannot fully see. There is a point where life calls us to stop, to breathe, to look inside, not because we have given up on the dream, but because we are being prepared for something that at the moment our limited vision is not capable of conceiving. And it is there, exactly there, in that space between frustration and starting over, that the invisible magic of the universe begins to act. After so much insistence, so much waiting, there came a moment when everything seemed to simply stop, as if time had frozen, and yet you continued there inside yourself, trying to understand. The mind did not remain silent. Thoughts rushed over each other as if they needed an urgent explanation for something that made no sense. And the strangest thing was realizing that the world around you was going on normally while you felt like someone stuck in an empty station, waiting for a train that never came. There were days when hope returned with force. You remembered signs, spoken phrases, veiled promises. He tried to convince himself that maybe it was just a matter of time, but then something would break the spell, an absence, an unexpected attitude, or simply silence. And there it all came again, the knot in your stomach, the tension in your chest, the feeling that you had bet everything and lost. By this point, confusion was mixed with exhaustion. You wondered if you had misread everything from the beginning. And that hurt more than admitting the end, because it wasn't just an external situation, it was a mirror, a reflection of how much you wanted to believe that something good would finally happen. You weren't just waiting for someone or something. You were betting on yourself, on your choices, on your worthiness. And when that failed, the blow was deep. The universe, however, does not see this pause as weakness. He understands that when everything stops, it's because you need to hear something that only silence can say. It is in that gap between what you wanted and what hasn't happened yet that the greatest discoveries arise. And that's when many enter a process of intense reflection, some even emotional isolation, not because they gave up, but because the external world no longer made as much sense. At this stage, people around you may not understand. They may even minimize your pain with ready-made phrases, such as, "It will pass," or, "You deserve better," and although their intentions are good, they don't see what you are going through inside. Because what you lost wasn't just a person or an opportunity, it was the image you had built of a possible future. But the universe does not move in haste, but with purpose. It allows emptiness, because that is where the new germinates. And even though now you only see dry land, there is a silent seed being fed by the tears you tried to hide even from yourself. In this space of silence, where no one else can reach, your strength begins to be reborn. You might be having sleepless nights, turning over possibilities, or rehearsing conversations that never happened. Perhaps you're making plans to forget, to move on, even if deep down you can't yet. That's all part of it, it's natural. There's no single right way to experience emotional grief, but there is a path that starts exactly where expectation dies and self-care begins. And this is where the universe starts to work more visibly. You'll begin to notice small signs that life still pulses, an unexpected message, an unlikely reunion, a new interest, or simply a morning when the pain feels less heavy. This isn't because the situation has changed, but because you have. That is the first true accomplishment, feeling present in yourself again. You don't have to understand everything now, nor forgive, nor forget, nor rush to the next phase. You just need to accept that you are going through a process that will redefine who you are and what you want to receive from life. The universe hasn't failed you, it's simply taking you down a path you don't know yet. Little by little, this new path will start to make sense. It's curious how suddenly something inside you starts to change, even without you realizing the exact moment it began. The pain, which previously consumed all spaces, loses intensity. You don't forget what you experienced, but you start to breathe more easily. Your mind still tries to understand, yes, but your heart no longer suffers in the same way. And that is where healing begins, not as an event, but as a silent, almost invisible process. The universe acts exactly like this, with delicacy. It doesn't invade, it waits. It waits for you to hear yourself. It waits until you're tired of resisting what never returns. It expects you to feel from the inside out that it's time to take care of yourself, because at some point, you understand that what hurt you also showed you how much you were forgetting to prioritize yourself. During this time, many people realized that they were waiting for something that was never truly about them. It was about absence, expectation, idealization. And when that falls apart, What's left is the opportunity to build something real, first within, then externally, because no one finds their way back to life without first recognizing what needs to be rebuilt. It is at this moment that the universe begins to respond more clearly. Signs come from where you least expect them, a random conversation with someone who says exactly what you needed to hear, a memory that suddenly makes you laugh instead of cry, a dream, an intuition, a desire to do something new, even if small. These are all forms of communication. These are answers that come when you open yourself to listening without rushing, without trying to control. Some people begin to realize that what they once wanted so much no longer seems so essential. Others still want it to come back, but now with more awareness, more balance, more truth. Both are on the right path, because there is no single answer. There is only what is best for your growth. And the universe will never deny you what is true for your journey. It can postpone it, it can redirect it, but it will never take away from you what is essentially yours. At this point, it's common to feel torn between moving forward once and for all or holding on to one last hope, between opening yourself up to something new or waiting a little longer. And that's okay. This moment of doubt is also a stepping stone. It serves to remind you that the most important decisions are those that come from internal listening and not from external urgency. And as contradictory as it may seem, it is when you let go of the obsession with the result that it finally begins to take shape. It's when you let go of control that you start to flow. It's when you stop chasing that something or someone starts coming your way. The universe watches this movement carefully, because it doesn't just act based on what you want, it acts based on what you need. And often what you want and what you need are not yet the same thing, but they will align. And when that happens, you will understand the reason for so much waiting, so much silence, so many ups and downs. The moment of healing is this, when you begin to realize that you are stronger than you thought, that you survived days that you swore you would not endure, that you still miss it, yes, but now with more maturity, and that you are beginning to feel the desire, even if timidly, to start over. This is the first victory, and the universe smiles inside seeing that you have come this far. There is a point in the journey where life begins to present new possibilities, not with grand announcements, but with subtleties. And maybe you don't even notice it right away, but the energy around you is no longer the same. What once seemed distant begins to take shape. People, opportunities, signs. Everything starts to align in ways you couldn't have predicted. This movement is not random. It is the universe responding to your inner willingness to move on, to your tiredness of living in circles, to your silent courage to start over, even without guarantees. You may not think you're doing anything different, but you are. Just the fact of taking better care of yourself, observing yourself more, saying yes less out of necessity, is already a new path being taken. And then two possible scenarios arise. For some people, the very situation that once seemed lost begins to come closer. That person comes back, that door opens a crack, that conversation that seemed impossible suddenly happens. But now you are no longer who you were. No longer willing to settle for the bare minimum. You are no longer trapped in illusion. You started demanding truth, reciprocity, clarity, and that changes everything. For other people, life begins to bring something completely new, a new connection, a new career direction, a new way of existing, something that makes you think, how did I not see this before? But the truth is, you weren't ready to see it. Your focus was entirely on a fixed point, a single possibility, and this blocked out anything that came from outside. Both paths are valid. There is no right or wrong. What exists is movement. What exists is expansion, and the universe will always give you what accompanies your evolution. Sometimes what returns is the same name, the same story, but with a different consciousness. Other times, what comes is something you never imagined, but it brings exactly what you needed to feel: security, inspiration, peace. And this is where many people feel afraid. Fear of trusting again, fear of giving in, fear of repeating everything and getting hurt again. It's understandable. But the universe invites you not to allow the past to dictate your future. The pain you experienced has already served its purpose. Now it's time to make room for something lighter. This doesn't mean throwing yourself into it without thinking. It means acting with more presence, with more connection with yourself, knowing what you accept and what you no longer accept, what you deserve and what you should never have tolerated. Because when you start living like this, the universe no longer needs to use pain to teach you. It starts using joy. Believe me, what is coming is greater than what you have lost. Even if it comes with a familiar face at first, it will bring another meaning. And if it comes with a new face, you will have another maturity to welcome it. In either case, what arrives no longer finds the same person that existed at the beginning of this story. And that completely changes the outcome. Everything you've been through is leading you to this moment. You are not adrift, you are being guided. And when the universe sees that you have understood the lesson, it starts giving you gifts. Not because you begged, but because you now understand the value of each one. There comes a time when you look back and realize that, as painful as it was all necessary. Not because you deserved to suffer, but because you needed to wake up, you needed to find yourself again. The universe knew you were losing yourself in something you weren't ready for or that wasn't up to par. And no matter how much it hurt, it protected you. At this point in the journey, many people report feeling new. It's not euphoria, nor relief. It is a type of peace that comes from within, like someone who has understood that even in pauses and losses, there is wisdom. You may not have received exactly what you asked for, but you received what brought you closer to who you are. And the truth is that the universe never forgot about you. Even when you thought everything was falling apart, even when you thought you were alone or forgotten, even when you didn't understand why so much effort generated so little return. It was preparation, it was emotional maturity being built in silence. Today you start to feel that something has changed. You no longer depend on an external response to validate what you feel. You no longer need the other person to come back to feel enough. No longer live with expectations hanging on those who are still confused or distant. You learn to love without sacrificing yourself, to take care of yourself without blaming yourself, to trust in time without despairing. And now everything changes, because when you change on the inside, the universe rearranges everything on the outside. Opportunities align, the right connections emerge, answers appear, not by magic, but because you are in tune with what is real. If that person still has a role in your life, they will come back transformed. If that door still makes sense, it will open in due time. But if the path is different, it will come with lightness, with truth, with reciprocity. There is no sad ending when there is learning. And you're not just moving on from a difficult phase, you're moving on to a new version of yourself. You are the person who survived frustration without losing hope. You are the one who kept walking even when everything seemed to stand still. You are the one who chose to love yourself even without any guarantee of return. And so the universe now delivers what is yours. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. You don't have to chase after what refuses to stay. You just have to continue being who you are in the most authentic and whole way possible. Life will surprise you, and this surprise will not be a reward for waiting, but a reflection of your courage to continue. You deserve love, joy, respect, fulfillment, and all of this is already on the way. You've come this far, and from now on, you won't walk alone anymore. The universe is with you and always has been. If this message resonated with your moment, if you felt that it was written for you, then write in the comments, "My path is guided by the universe." Like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this today, and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving messages that reconnect you with what is true. The universe is listening to you, and it has much more to show you. See you in the next video.